Hey, everybody, how's it going? We're live. Ben, we're live.
Oh, hey. Put down that cracker. So good, though. Can I
What?
just have another bite? Hold on. One more bite of my cracker.
No. Oh, he put it on mute, and now he's eating a cracker. This is my coworker, guys. Host of a podcast, eating a cracker right before the show. Are you there? Hello?
No, hold on. Here, drink of water.
Good God.
You notice who was the guest where I put on mute as the train went by? And they were like, what happened?
All right.
Hold on. Train going by.
Oh, this is...
I'll tell you what. If this doesn't win us that podcasting award, nothing will.
All right, everybody. We are ready. Ben has got his cracker. He took a drink of water, and I think we're ready to roll. Your Ben Joravsky Show for Thursday, February 4th. It's just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank our sponsors. Sponsors like SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana. They are sponsors. The Chicago Federation of Labor. They're sponsors as well. And the Chicago Reader, chicagoreader.com. Check out Chicago Reader for all things there is to know in the city of Chicago, what to do, where to go, even in a pandemic, and so much more, like columns from our very own Ben Joravsky. We're going to be talking about the latest follow-up from Ben Joravsky's column regarding Senator Heather Stearns and Kelly Cassidy. Ben's going to be talking about that a little later on. But, Ben, you have a song of the day.
Oh.
Obviously.
Oh.
Stop in the Name of Love by the Supremes.
Do you know this song?
Obviously. Yeah.
You do know it?
Oh, yeah.
If you want to sing it, go ahead.
No. My name is not on the banner, sir.
All right, here we go. Stop in the name of love. Ding, 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 ding. Before you break my heart. And then I love the part where they go, baby, think it over. And then they go, think it over, baby. I remember when I first heard that, D, I was like, wow, that's so brilliant. Baby, think it over, baby. You see what he did? How they flipped the baby from the front to the back.
Yeah, did a little baby flip there.
Yeah, baby flip. I was like, why can't I think of things like that? I don't know who wrote that song, but it's a brilliant song.
And live stream chat room, I don't know about you guys, but that may be a contender for a Song of the Day of the Year. That was really good, Ben. Good job.
You know, I've been really working on my singing, D. I didn't tell you this. At night, I put on my, Lemon Lulu or Lululemon tights with the see-through bottom. And I do my stretches, my tree pose.
Oh, yeah. The vision's in my head right now. The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Thursday, February 4th. And live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, the Heartland Mamas return. I repeat, the Heartland Mamas return. Heidi Henry and Murri Briel, hosts of the Heartland Mamas podcast. And now your host, not a Heartland Mama, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Marjorie Told Me Thursday. And here's why. Big showdown in Washington yesterday. Republicans at each other's throats. They don't know what to do. On the one hand, you got the MAGA enraged because Congresswoman Liz Cheney voted to impeach President Donnie. How dare she do that? On the grounds that he incited a mob to storm the Capitol and overturn the election. Oh, that's how she dared to do that. And on the other hand, you've got one congressman, Adam Kinzinger, who wants to officially delink the party from Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, among other things, has advocated the execution of Democratic politicians she doesn't agree with. Well, sort of. She liked some comments that people put on Facebook, including Nancy Pelosi. Plus, she stalked David Hogg as he walked down the street like she was a maniac. I mean, that was pretty scary stuff every time I watched that. This lady's a congresswoman, and she's not apologized for that? So you could say that Marjorie Taylor Greene was part of the mob before there was a mob. Republicans don't know what to do. On the one hand, they want to look like a responsible mainstream party. On the other hand, they're under the sway of right-wing lunatics who've turned their brains over to President Donnie. There's no easy way out of this one, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I have no great political love for Congresswoman Liz Cheney, or any Cheney for that matter, or even Adam Kinzinger. But compared to Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're like bastions of common sense. Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader in the House, is wetting his pants over this one. He doesn't know which way to go. I'm scared. Too scared to take a stand. So they kind of like split the baby in this one here, okay? They tweeted out all kinds of condemnations of what Marjorie Taylor Greene said, and then they avoided voting to censor her or removing her from a committee. Then they voted to let Liz Cheney keep her ranking as the third highest Republican in the House, even though a whole bunch of them voted against her. And now they're warning Democrats. Now they're turning it into a thing against the Democrats. If you go after Marjorie Taylor Greene, we can go after you. If we take control of the House, we can vote to kick you off of committees and expel you from the Congress. Think about that. And I'd be like, I've been voting Democrat my whole life. But if the Democrats elected congresspeople who were signing on to the execution of other congresspeople and cheering on the mob as it stormed Congress and stalking normal citizens as they just walk down the street, yeah, I would hope they get voted off of the committees too. By the way, during the closed meeting with Republicans, Marjorie Taylor Greene offered what the New York Times called a modicum of contrition. I love when they use those fancy words.
Oh, yeah, that's over my head, huh?
By the way, you are looking great today. It's like, are you wearing a turtleneck?
Oh, no, I got my my face covering here, and you know what I mean? It's around my neck.
There you go. I'll tell you what. The only guy who's gotten better looking in the pandemic is Dennis. You're looking really good, by the way. All right. Anyway, didn't mean to go on that tangent. Yeah. I just looked up and noticed. He's blushing, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, here we go. This is from the New York Times. Ms. Greene offered a modicum of contrition in a brief speech, according to two people familiar with the remarks, apologizing for espousing a number of conspiracy theories and emphasizing that she no longer believed in them. She sidestepped the issue of a Facebook post she made in 2018, unearthed by Media Matters for America, suggesting that a devastating wildfire that ravaged California was started by a laser beam from space and controlled by a prominent Jewish banking family with connections to powerful Democrats. Okay, she sidestepped that one, huh? Meanwhile, while voicing what the New York Times calls this modicum of contrition, Marjorie Taylor Greene was declaring martyrdom in the following fundraising email, which I got because somehow or other, Republicans and Tea Party wingnuts think I'm one of them. So here's what she said in her email, along with my explanations and comments. It opens, fellow patriot. Yes, I love it when they call me a patriot. The liberals here in Washington are entirely out of control. No, they're not. They're not the ones storming the Capitol. Quote, they will be holding a vote to expel me from my legislative committees because I dare to stand up for you instead of the Washington elite. End of quote. No, they want to expel you because you sign on to the execution of Congress people, sort of. Plus that whole space laser thing. Quote, today they are coming after me to make sure I can't do the job I was elected to do. What will they do if you say something they don't like? End of quote. And my response to that is nothing. They'll do nothing. Right-wing lunatics are saying all kinds of right-wing lunatical things on social media all the time, and nobody does anything about it. You're not going to get in trouble unless, like, you're advocating for the execution of a congressperson. Then you might get into a little trouble. I kind of hope you get into trouble for that. But by and large, nobody ever punishes anybody for what they say on Facebook and Twitter. Oh, unless they kick him off. My dear friend Sergio Mims was kicked off Twitter. Again, then guess what happens? After about a month or so, they let you back on. This notion that you're somehow going to be punished for being a right-winger is so ludicrous. Only other right-wingers would believe it. She goes on with more rhetoric, feeling sorry for herself, talking about how AOC and Black Lives Matter get away with murder, etc., and so forth. And finally, she closes with, "We need to stick together. Please donate today." Ah, yes. The plea for money. According to what the New York Times wrote, the suckers kicked in the dough. $160,000 raised by the end of the day for her on this fundraising appeal. No contrition anywhere to be found, not even a modicum of it. Just more of the same, feeding the sense of martyrdom. So folks, keep sending her the change. I don't feel sorry for you Republicans because you're in a pickle here. Michael Cohen warned you. Only bad things can happen when you climb into bed with Trump. We got a great show today, everybody. The Heartland Mamas, as Dennis said, will be here. Heidi, Henry, Murri, Briel, and Heidi, Henry, and Murri, Briel have a lot to say, among other things, about Adam Kinzinger. Heidi wrote me a very passionate text message not too long ago, D, saying I was too easy on Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah, so I'm really I agree.
Heidi, Dennis wholeheartedly agrees with you.
You know, he was just, I don't like Trump, Ben. Oh, I love the guy.
So we'll see what Heidi and Murri have to say. They have a whole bunch of things. And by the way, they may weigh in from the Heartland on the situation with Lori Lightfoot in the Chicago Public Schools. The Heartland weighs in. I can't wait for that. Heidi, Henry, and Murri Briel, two of my favorite people. Heartland Mamas podcast. Both of them ran. Actually, Murri Briel ran D in the 6th Congressional District in the Democratic primary for the honor of running against Adam Kinzinger. So I can't wait to hear what they have to say about Adam Kinzinger, Republicans, and Michael Joseph Madigan. Let's discuss what the impact will be of Michael Joseph Madigan no longer being the Speaker of the House. Can't wait to hear what the Heartland Mamas have to say about that. Before we bring them on, the young man from Alton, who is a Heartland Papa.
Whoa. I'm not a father.
The man the Heartland Mamas happily call Dr. D with the news.
Very excited to hear from the Heartland Mamas. Come on, everybody. Heartland Mamas. Heartland Mamas. Oh, Ben, Steven is back on the live stream chat. We haven't heard from Steven in a while. Come on, Steven. Steven. Yeah.
Wait, where's the bottle smash?
That was it.
Oh, D. Bad news. Snowing outside.
Yeah.
Snowing outside.
Yeah, so I need you to focus now. Don't go staring off into the snow. We got to do the local news, okay?
Oh my God, I'm getting hypnotized by the snow.
Jesus.
Oh, it's so fluffy and white as it falls from the sky. Oh, I'm feeling very poetic, dude. That was poetic.
Very, very poetic. You got any more for us?
No. I exhausted my poetry right there.
Oh, we're all a little bummed out. And yeah. So, Ben, please focus. And for the man, I just tell you, I miss you, Suntime Studio. I miss you.
Yeah, I think I was more focused in the Brightland studio, don't you think? Did you love it? Let's just take a moment to wax nostalgic about the good old days in that studio. Like, I'd always have, Dennis knows me so well. He's been working with me for all these years. I always get a little nervous about, will the connection happen with the guest? You know what I'm saying? I'm always a little edgy. Will the guest show up? It's always a little.
It's my favorite part of the program, honestly. I love the the excitement, the tension.
I know it is. He does thrive on it because it's like, hey man, if we have to wing it, we have to wing it. Let's go. And so I always had that little nervousness. Will the guest show up? And in the Bright one, they would come to the studio. We'd sit together around a table together. Anyway, that moment when the door you'd see the handle turn and the door would open and in walked it could be the Heartland Mamas driving in from wherever they drive in from. Go, Ben, you should know where it is by now. I know, D, but I get all mixed up, okay? And it could be, who else? Who else could it be? Big Ed Maher. Hey. Walk in, open the door, you know what I mean? Maya would walk in, Ramana. My guest has arrived. Monroe was always a little tricky. It was the traffic. Remember, he always complained about the traffic or whatever. But that moment when the door would open and the guests walk in, good old day, good times.
Yeah.
Good times.
Good times. And hey, those are over. We're now in your attic and I'm in my apartment.
Yeah, well.
Hey, let's find out what's happening in Chicago and or Illinois this afternoon. We begin in Chicago, and our coverage of the Chicago mayor and her ongoing dispute with the Chicago Teachers Union continues.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh, good afternoon, Madam Mayor. How are you today? Now, Ben, maybe it's just me, but today I've been experiencing a little deja vu. Feels like 2019 all over again, because Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot says she has run out of patience with the Chicago Teachers Union and wants a deal on reopening today. I know, buddy. A fed-up Lightfoot delivered a press conference this morning. And, for those who like sports metaphors,
the ball is in the CTU's court. Despite a series of productive exchanges between CPS and the Chicago Teachers Union leadership on Monday and Tuesday that should absolutely have led to a comprehensive agreement yesterday, we are deeply disappointed to announce that we still have not reached a deal. Yesterday, there were a series of steps backward that were simply not productive. And we have conveyed that problem to the CTU leadership in the strongest terms possible. We waited for hours last night, hours, and still did not receive a proposal from the Chicago Teachers Union leadership. And as of this morning, we are still waiting. But to be clear, not patiently, not anymore.
That's it. Mayor's mad. By the way, she's talking about we, like a royal we, the pronoun. Did she ever say that she made a call to the Chicago Teachers Union? That she called Jesse Sharkey or Stacey Davis? Oh my God, she'll never call Stacey Davis. Never, ever, ever call Stacey Davis. I'm just, in Washington, no matter who the president is, even Trump, who viewed himself as an emperor, like when he wanted to negotiate with the other side, he would negotiate with them. So there would be those scenes where, remember, Nancy Pelosi would come to the White House. Remember those days? The good old days, huh? Or Chuck Schumer would come to the White House. Even Trump. Has Lori Lightfoot reached out? No. Because it's a weird city we have. In the weird city of Chicago, mayors do not recognize teacher union leaders as their equals. It's like a chain of command here and a hierarchy. And the mayor does not, by the way, it wasn't always this way. I remember the good old days, more good old days that I'm remembering. This is long before your time. Mayor Richard M. Daley. Wow, I'm waxing nostalgic about Richard M. Daley. Good God.
Oh, that's something new.
I know, that is new.
No, it's not. You always talk about Daley.
But not with as much appreciation as I'm about to say. So like in the old days, before he took complete control of the Board of Education, he would act as though he was not a player in a dispute between the head of the Board of Education and the head of the Teachers Union. At some point, either after the teachers are going on strike or just before they go on strike, he would call them all to his office. We said, what can we do to get a deal here? Let's get a deal here, okay? Everybody was equal. They got to meet the mayor. They were in his office. I'm sure he served coffee. He learned this from his father. Richard J. Daley would do this. But now we have this weird thing where the mayor's a teammate of the Board of Education. So they speak of in terms of we, but she's too important to actually meet with Stacey Davis Gates or Jesse Sharkey to go, because you don't want Jesse Sharkey or Stacey Davis Gates to think that they're the equivalent of a mayor. Mayor's more powerful than them. They meet with the underlings. Now, I noticed the mayor went and met with Candace Parker the other day, D. Do you remember that? Candace Parker, the great basketball player who's going to play for the Chicago Sky. born and raised or raised in Naperville, and the mayor met with her. So why can't you, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, just pretend Jesse Sharkey is Candace Parker, and just maybe that's what it'll take, just to meet with them. Listen. My friends who love Lori Lightfoot tell me, Ben, I'm going to give you the other side now, D. Ben, you don't understand. You've been fooled by the Chicago Teachers Union. They're really an evil cabal of lefty lunatics. And they fooled you. They've mesmerized you. And now you just speak their mind. You're a robot. I love Stacey Davis Gates.
Boy, that impression catalog just keeps going.
That's what they tell me. You don't realize how evil they are. Meanwhile, I got all these teachers calling me, freaking out. You know, ordinary teachers who don't have a political axe to grind, don't really follow politics that much. They're like, the water, we don't even have warm water in our school to wash our hands. It's like Lori Lightfoot lives in a universe, and it's not, I'm not picking on Lori. I'm not picking. They live in a universe. Just so many people like they think the Chicago public schools are just this sanely run, but beautifully, smoothly operating machine. They don't have hot water. They spent $100 million cleaning it. They say, I don't know where they found that $100 million. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, it's under this newspaper. $100 million, D, out of nowhere, cleaning up the schools. And then there's pictures of the dead mouse. Hey, missed that mouse. Sorry, Jay Murri, I hate bringing up the dead mouse, but I always think about it when they said he's cleaned up the school. So I don't know, man. Lori Lightfoot's mad. She's mad. I'm surprised she didn't threaten to take their car, D. I'm going to take that car. I'd like to remind everybody we're in the middle of a pandemic. We'll get into this. You got doctors saying, it's safe. Go back to school. It's, just go back to school already. It's safe. Go back to school. Not one of those doctors has ever been in a Chicago public school, I might add. Some doctor in Washington. Yeah, in the abstract, schools are safer, let's say, than a bus. By the way, have they started vaccinating the bus drivers yet? I don't think so, right, D? Don't get me started on the vaccination. It's like, I'm not going to name names. Dennis, you will not get me to name names at all. But I'm constantly seeing emails from people I know who are like, got the vaccine, got it. And they all know somebody, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is generally a person who's 70 years old or 65 years old or 75 years old who will not leave their house under any circumstances. Why are they getting the vaccine ahead of a bus driver, a grocery store worker, a teacher, a teacher's aide? I still don't know why Lori Lightfoot got it ahead of all these others. Really weird system we have for doling out the vaccine. Anyway, D, went on a tangent there. I humbly apologize as I watched the snow fly. By the way, the snow is flying. Are they ever going to be able to have us? How many inches of snow are we supposed to have today? Do you know? You're my weather guy.
Oh, yeah, I'm the weather guy. Who am I, Trent Ford? No, I think they're calling for maybe 5 inches.
Oh, well, I don't know. 5 inches could be a snow day. So what's the hurry, guys? You can't get to school anyway. And by the way, how many percent of the parents say they're going to send their kids? 20%? So we're having all this over 20%? You couldn't figure out a way to somehow or other accommodate, I don't know, the 20% who want to go in? According to what the vote was, 20% of the teachers want to go in. You couldn't figure out a way to make some kind of accommodation? Nope. That's not how we do it in Chicago. In Chicago, we give orders. And when you give orders, people follow those orders. That's how you run a school system.
Okay, so earlier we heard a sports metaphor from Lori Lightfoot. The ball is in the CTU's court. Hey, why the hell not? How about an airplane metaphor?
After 80-plus meetings and going above and beyond to address the CTU leadership's various issues and concerns, we are out of runway.
We are out of runway, says the mayor.
That's good. I like it. The speechwriters, they got some poets working there at the Board of Education. Ball is in your court. Now, I'm struggling with this one, D. I believe that doesn't that relate to tennis?
I believe it's tennis, yes.
Tennis. So that's a tennis metaphor, okay? My instinct is to always think ball is in your court means basketball, because ball, basketball, court, basketball, court. My love for the game of basketball. But I believe it's a tennis metaphor, D. By the way, Karen Lewis, the former head of the Chicago Teachers Union, huge tennis fan. Why couldn't Lori Lightfoot reach out to Karen with their love for tennis there, okay? Nah, can't reach out. Okay. Can't treat the union like they're on our level. You're going to go to those 70 to 80 meetings with the HR guy, and you're going to like it. I always like how they throw that out. We've had 80 meetings. You haven't been at any of them. So we're going to make Stacey Davis. I know how we're going to get back at Stacey Davis Gates. We're going to make her go to a meeting with the HR guy. Here. And then they always act, oh, wow, you have 70 of these meetings. I'll tell you what, man. We part of that conversation. Can I promote the show, D? Can I promote Sunday's show? We're going to drop it Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great conversation we had. Gregory Pratt was there. Gregory knows. In addition to being an outstanding City Hall reporter for the Chicago Tribune, he's president of the Chicago Tribune Guild. So he's meeting in negotiations with the lawyers for the company. He knows what it's like to be in one of those meetings. It's not like walking through a lovely snowy afternoon in Chicago, okay? It's like, let me recite to you the specifics of our healthcare plan. Good. So it's not like, 70, 80 meetings. People in Chicago are, oh my God. Wow, they've been so nice to those teachers. They've locked them in a room with the HR guy. Oh, oh my God. What a city, D. What a city I live in. I chose to live here, so I got no one to blame but myself.
Yeah, that's all on you. But wait, there's more.
These schools are open and safe, and we are ready to welcome our students back. And frankly, they've been ready for some time. All we need now is the CTU leadership to get serious and meet us at the finish line. This week is finals week for our high school students. In support of them and to avoid any further disruption, we extended our cooling off period through the end of the day today, as Friday is a previously set non-attendance day. We've extended ourselves beyond measure out of empathy for our teachers in this very difficult time. And we will continue discussions to address the remaining issues as quickly as possible in our further effort to avoid a catastrophic disruption to our school system. But let me emphasize again that time is running out.
Whoa, catastrophic disruption to the school system. It's been disrupted for over a year. It's called a pandemic. Everything's been disrupted. I'm hoping it'll end soon. I'd like to see some of these energies somehow or other putting pressure on the powers that be that are controlling the distribution of the vaccine. Everybody, it's intolerable that these schools remain closed for another day, this catastrophic disruption. On the other hand, hey, if all goes well by the end of August, everybody will have the vaccine. Why do we put up with one thing, which is really catastrophically destructive, and denounce the other thing? And by the way, I don't know why she raised the poor high school kids. They're not even part of the go back plan. This is just elementary she's talking about. They haven't even figured out what to do with the high school kids. I really feel, when I think about the disruption of the pandemic on students, I have well, I don't want to say greater empathy for high school students and grammar school kids, but I really feel for high school kids. I think of all those kids who missed out on the school play, for instance, or if you're a basketball player on the basketball season, or your football season, or your cross country season, et cetera, and so forth. But they're not even talking about bringing them back. So I don't know. It's just, everybody makes mistakes. You know what? I'm going to give her a little break there, D. Everybody makes mistakes. I've been known to make mistakes plenty of times. So she just kind of went off script there. She got all into the whole metaphor with the tennis court and the runway. And I don't know. You figure if it's so important a phone call to Stacey Davis Gates, you know, kind of like, or not, okay, you don't even have to do state. Jesse Sherky. Nope. Can't meet with him. That wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be mayoral. So, yeah, I'm hoping when this thing ends, I'm really hoping that this passion that the powers that be, not just in City Hall, not just in corporate Chicago, but throughout the country, the passion that they're suddenly showing for low-income children in big city school systems continues. Wouldn't that be something? If they use this as an opportunity to really show how committed they are to these school systems, you know, fund programs, like tutoring programs, art programs, music programs, summer school programs, really go all out to make sure that that gap between the poor and the rich is closed. I've never seen that ever. There's never any money for that. Never any energy or desire for that. Only when they could stick it to the teachers union, all of a sudden they care about the inequities that hobble our school system.
And what do you have to say about that comment you made there earlier, too, saying that the CTU, they need to get serious. They need to get serious. As if their demands are like bumper cars in the playground or something. You know what I mean? Like, no, they seem pretty serious, right?
Yeah, they're a very serious bunch. I don't know. It would seem to me that if Lori Lightfoot really wanted to be serious, she would have reached out to the teachers union a long time ago. And again, to promote that show, Gregory Pratt, excellent conversation. We talked about the whole dynamic coming out of the 2019 mayoral election, where the teachers union went in strong for Tony Preckwinkle, and the sort of that's where we're at now. We're still at that place. And I just feel as though the mayor was victorious in 2019. So she should have reached out. And I don't get the feeling in any way that she did. And so now here we are, we're locked into this. Now, Gregory raised a very good point. You know, I shouldn't give away too much of the show, Dave. I should let people, right? Shouldn't I just tease? He raised a very good point about what would happen if Tony Preckwinkle had been victorious. Of course, Tony Preckwinkle, Lori Lightfoot mopped the floor with Tony Preckwinkle. I told you, teachers union, not to go in strong for Tony, but you didn't listen to me. I sometimes wonder, who listens to me less, the teachers union or Lori Lightfoot? That's a tough one. It's a tough one. All that great advice, D, I give to people, and they don't listen to me. Anyway, Greg Pratt from the Tribune raises the issue of what would have happened if Tony Preckwinkle had been victorious. And when I give the response, I'm going to make you listen to that show on Sunday.
There you go. Available at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts Sunday. All right? That's our first Tuesday special. But wait, there's more?
And let me emphasize again, while remote learning works for some, it absolutely doesn't work for everyone. Not by a long shot. And I'm going to keep repeating these numbers and metrics because they are devastating and should create a sense of urgency in all of us to do the right thing for our kids in this difficult time, black and brown kids who look like me, coming from circumstances like the one that I grew up in, who are struggling and are failing. We are failing those children by not giving them the option to return to school. Failing grades, depression, isolation, and so much more. That is why we must get a deal done and get it done now without further delay. So let's do it. CTU, let's do it today. Let's get a deal done. Enough is enough. We have everything, more than, to make that happen today. And we simply can't afford to wait any longer because our children cannot afford to wait any longer.
I'm with her 100%. That's what I'm talking about. I'm with her 100%. And I'll be standing with you, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, when this pandemic is over, as you call for CTU to come in, and you call Dick Durbin to come in, and Tammy Duckworth, and President Biden. We need aid for the city of Chicago. We need to expand our program so we can break down these walls of inequity. I'm with you 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. I hope this plea and this sense of urgency that you're espousing right now at this moment in the direction of this dispute with the Chicago Teachers Union, I hope it's there when this pandemic passes. I really hope that when this pandemic passes, and I assume it will, that we just don't go back to the way things were. Where, like, just in the city of Chicago, if you're from a North Side school with a wealthy group of parents, you could raise the money you need to overcome the shortfalls that the school system can't overcome. Whereas poorer schools, I got teachers sending me Facebook requests. Hey, can you kick in a little money? I'm trying to raise some money so I can buy supplies for my kids. I hope that as a system-wide, we confront that. You know, and when the teachers union speaks up for that, I hope they're not told, shut up and take your money and go back into the classroom. I really do hope that this is a new day. And saying this, I'm almost like embarrassed how naive I sound. But every day, Dia, I wake up hoping that like people will see the light. Our city of Chicago signed on to a development deal of $1.3 billion on an upscale neighborhood, an already gentrifying neighborhood. Essentially took that money from the public schools to do that. And now we're told to believe that nothing is more critical than the performance of kids in the lowest scoring high poverty schools. It's just what we see and what we hear don't correspond. And I just, for once, would like to see like action that was different than the rhetoric. Would love to see that. So I'm with you 100%, Lori Lightfoot, and I love that passion, and I hope it's there in the aftermath. And this pandemic's over. Like, I hope we don't go back to the way it was. I hope that urgency remains.
All right. And also news here, under a tentative agreement reached Wednesday. It says here, according to the Sun-Times, every teacher and staff member at 134 schools in the neighborhoods hardest hit by COVID-19 will be tested for the virus weekly. And the two sides also appeared closer to a deal on a vaccination plan. The resolution of one of the larger disagreements between the district and the union represented progress at the bargaining table, but it was clearly not enough for Lightfoot. Today, the mayor also attended a virtual celebration at 11 a.m. for the new J.P. Morgan Chase branch in the South Shore neighborhood. Oh, that sounds fun, doesn't it, Ben?
Yeah, the opening of a bank. Where is it? Does it say where the bank would be?
It says the South Shore neighborhood.
South Shore.
Yeah, South Shore neighborhood.
All right, well, good for that opening. But boy, I'll tell you what, just hearing just the thought of negotiating over the distribution of the vaccine just sickens me. I got to say, Dee, it's just like, what a freaking joke. You know, I just reread a book, White Tiger, great book, great satirical novel. And one of the lines is where the narrator comes back and just says, what a fucking joke. I'm just literally quoting Dee. Okay. I don't like to swear, but that's what they say. And it's just like sometimes I hear things and I just shake my head. And the reality is, if the Chicago Teachers Union wasn't as organized as the way they are, if they didn't stand up strong together, or if they weren't defiant, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. It would just like go back to school. Just so what? 20% of the kids would be showing up. Teachers would be doing this bizarre hybrid where they'd be teaching the kids who aren't in the class and teaching the kids who are in the class. And again, part of Sunday's, Yana explained all this in Sunday's explanation. What a weird situation they have. So they got these pods, the way the setup will be. So half the kids come in on Monday and Wednesday, and then half the kids come in on Thursday and Friday. And then there's this deep clean on Wednesday where they clean up the classroom. And I'm sitting there listening to that. I'm like, what is that all about? Like, why are you deep cleaning the classroom? Like, this virus is spread through the air. So, I mean, what are you scrubbing the classroom for? Why is that going to be? So you're reassuring the kids who come in the second pod that any germs that are lingering in the classroom won't be there? Well, guess what? They've already infected the teacher. If there were germs in the classroom, just like, but that's the way the system. It would be a form of irrationality, illogic. But because the teachers union has this ability to stand up for its members, we're not back in the classroom. And it's like the city of Chicago, that's, I think, Dee, that really upsets them, that a group of workers would have the power to tell the leaders of the city, no. I think ultimately that's what really irritates people in this town. I don't think it has anything to do with the inequities between poor and rich in the public schools, because those inequities exist year after year after year, and nobody did anything about it during the Rahm years when he was doling out money for upscale development and gentrifying neighborhoods. No one, the Daley years, that inequity has existed as long as I can remember. And I remember a long, long time. Nobody seemed too urgent to deal with it. Only now. And by the way, guarantee you, when this pandemic's over, which I presume it will be, I gotta hope that eventually vaccines will be delivered to everybody. People are back, kids are back in the classrooms. You won't hear any talk from the powers that be about the inequities in our public schools. It'll only be some lefty up in an attic overlooking an alley filling with snow. Like that filling with snow, D? Very poetic. It's filling with snow. Hey, let's open those schools today. Get back to that school right now. Some little kid is walking down a snow-filled street. By the way, I love that cooling off period. I don't know. D, I know you think I'm a cynic. But when they had that cooling off period right in the middle, right, like just coincidentally after the snowstorm, there was a part of me, I feel the inner Chicagoan coming out of me. I'm not even from this city, been here so long. I think it was because they couldn't figure out a way to open those schools in the middle of a snowstorm. I don't know, D, maybe I'm too cynical. I've been too cynical. Hanging around this city so long, D, I was so, fresh, hopeful and optimistic before I came to this town.
Oh, what an awful podcast that would be. Optimistic, fresh. No one wants to hear that. We like what you got going on now, you know? Guy in his attic.
I don't know, Dave. What do you think? Can you open the schools today? It's really snowing out there. Let's open those schools. Get those. Only 20% right now say they're going back, even if it was sunshiny and blue skies. Wonder how many will show up in the middle of the snowstorm. It's very important we open those schools, particularly in the middle of a snowstorm.
Okay, we're about to let live stream chat listener Radio Doogie have the floor on the Ben Joravsky Show for quite some time here, because first he waited on the live stream chat. He says, wait, didn't the city just cancel the St. Patrick's Day parade due to Corona? But that's outdoors. Will Pride be canceled this year? What about the taste? Is the lakefront open? The risk of spreading is more indoors, but it's okay to open schools? Completely double standards.
Yeah, listen, thank you, Radio. We've been grappling with this since the get-go. I mean, all right, admittedly, most people go, the science. I don't even pretend to know science. I barely passed science when I was in high school, and it was only because my teachers were merciful to me. Now, Dennis was a little better at science than I was, so he's a little more knowledgeable.
Really?
So I don't pretend to know science. I just know that on the face of it, it does seem like a giant mixed message. And by the way, they did a warning against Super Bowl parties. See that, D? I won't be able to my beloved Super Bowl. Every Super Bowl, I would go over to my dear friend Cap's house. He would cook up oh my God, it would be a feast. Chicken and steak, and the grill would be going, and all the fellas would be there. We watched the Super Bowl. It's one of the highlights of the year. And won't be doing that because, I kind of take serious the notion that this virus is potentially deadly. And I don't want to do anything that would, endanger someone, myself included. So I'm with you, Doogie. They canceled the St. Patrick's Day parade because they didn't think it would be a good idea, but apparently they think it's a good idea to open the schools.
They still have virtual city council meetings. That's a point Michael Girardi's brought up.
Yeah, they still have, got to protect those aldermen. But teachers, get in the classroom and get in there now.
So that was the comment from Radio Doogie on the live stream chat. But Ben, Doogie also left us a voicemail. We've gotten quite a bit of snow here in Chicago, and it's snowing like crazy at the moment as well. So you know what that means. It's dibs season in Chicago, where people channel their inner redneck and throw random items that they own out in the middle of the road to claim the parking spot they spent so much time shoveling. Not a good look, guys. But hey, here's live stream chat listener Doogie's voicemail with more on dibs.
I don't know if we've covered this topic or not. But, it's dibs time. It's time for parking dibs. We just got 3 feet of snow, and it took me 3 hours to unbury my truck. Now, you better not remove my chair, my wicker basket, my kid's rocking chair or rocking horse. Whatever I put there, you better not move that. That's my spot. Are we going to get to boxing? Dibs, fool.
Dibs, fool. Thank you, Radio Doogie.
Wait, dibs, what was the last word?
He said dibs, fool.
Oh, dibs, fool. Well, yeah, I'm not allowed to duck and dodge the challenging issues of the day, You know that, D, right? So I've been thinking about, did we have this conversation? My memory is really slipped. I talked to so many different people in the course of the day. I can't remember who I had this conversation with. It may have been Dennis about dibs. And I would say, my attitude about dibs was, it looks so tacky to have those chairs out there in the street. But on the other hand, D, let's be honest, I have a garage. My car's in the garage. My car will probably be in the garage for another month. I'm not going anywhere anyway. I'll walk to the grocery store. So it's easy for me to denounce dibs. So I'm coming on board. I believe that Doogie has a constitutional right to put his kid's rocking chair out in front of his house or wherever he puts it to preserve that space that he dug out. Yes. But you know what, D, I do that I just want to make this point. Not because it's like a Chicago thing to do. Because that really annoys me, the Chicago thing, what we do. Don't put ketchup on the hot dog. Don't root for the Cubs if you live on the south side.
Roosevelt.
It's a Chicago thing. So I'm not for it for that reason. I'm just for it because it makes sense. So I'm with you 100%, Doogie, on the dibs thing.
Doogie on the dibs thing. Once again, thank you, Doogie. Hey, be like Doogie. Reach out to the Ben Joravsky Show. Send us a voicemail, 708-658-4788. I mean, we'll more than likely play it like we just did there with Doogie's voicemail, especially dibs voicemails. That was awesome. All right, so now we move on to more city news. One more piece of city news here. Shout out to the Chicago Sun-Times and Stefano Esposito. Stefano put out a great investigative piece on the habits of those in Chicago commuting on the CTA during the pandemic. And, well, here's what Stefano Esposito learned. The mask mandate on public transit is not always followed or enforced in Chicago. Stefano apparently took the L and went to work. He documented his journey. Now, Ben's going to be weighing in with his thoughts on this. I know he wanted to riff on it, but I just want to talk about one specific encounter that Stefano Esposito had. It's the very top of the story here. Esposito said he noticed a man who boarded the train at the Wilson Red Line stop not wearing a mask, not even one slung loosely around his neck. Apparently, this person paid no attention to social distancing rules on the train, holding onto a pole and standing less than 6 feet from another masked passenger. His behavior drew anxious stares from other passengers. And according to this story here, the unmasked man said at one point, "Hey, why are you staring at me? I can see you staring at me." The man was one of several passengers seen not wearing a mask during an hour-long trip from the Howard Street station to downtown this week, despite the ubiquitous signs reminding riders to do so, per Governor J.B. Pritzker's executive order. Ben, I haven't asked you this in a while. Have you rode the CTA, a bus, train, or anything yet since the pandemic?
Oh, no.
Still.
I'm telling you, man. I know you took I'm pretty sure you took a train once. I remember you telling me about it. No, I've not. I remember the last time I took that train, it was when we were still at the studio. I believe our last day in the studio was a Tuesday. And I took that train that Friday, I want to say. I don't know. I remember being in the train and being so scared. People are coughing. You know what I'm saying? Oh, there comes the virus. I don't know if I had a mask then. I don't think I had a mask. But yeah, I haven't done it since, that would have been February, right, D? Or no, March. I can't remember now. Suddenly no, March. It would have been March. So no, I read this story. It's a great story. Stefano Esposito, great job. And Isabel Saraf, there was double byline, so I want to give her a shout out as well. Great story sometimes. Riders with no masks, rarely taken to task. Hey, someone's feeling a little poetic there, D. I didn't notice that.
Oh.
That headline writer. You know?
Hey, Stefan. Oh, the headline writer. Hey.
Yeah.
Snaps, man.
Riders with no masks, rarely taken to task. But yeah, the dude gets mad at him. Like, you staring at me? Huh? You looking at me? Like, whoa, man, people are weird. Just read this article, and yeah, just brought home why I don't go on the trains. I don't go anywhere. But I'm lucky. I get to do this show. I get to do my job without it leaving my house. I'm very fortunate at that. And I think that in general, during a pandemic, we should limit the number of people who have to leave their house. You know what I mean? So we have to think long and hard about what is really an essential worker. I was just talking, who was I talking to? Another person I was talking to the other day, a big time lawyer. Oh yes, I know who it was. A big time lawyer working, saying that he's as busy as ever, but never leaves his house. Doesn't go downtown to his law office. Got this beautiful law office downtown Chicago, but doesn't go to that law office. Everything is done from the house. So limiting the definition of what is an essential worker in the middle of a pandemic is a good idea, because D, you can't, there's just no way to accommodate. That's what this story really brought home. The behavior of individuals. You can't depend on other people to do the right thing. It was so obvious when I read this story, like, this guy's defiant. Why are you staring at me? Well, because you're not wearing a mask. And then there's the people, they also talk about this in the story, who like don't wear the mask the right way. This is like a pet peeve of mine when I watch a basketball game. You know what I'm saying? It's like, or a football game. It's more in a football game where the mask is not over their nose. It's like, dude, duh. You know you could be spreading it because you're not covering your nose. You know that, don't you, right? Well, I get the mask on over my mouth. And then the guy like who has the mask, it's not even over his chin. So it's just sort of like keeping his neck warm. It's not a neck warmer. It's a mask. Or how about when like Steve Kerr, the coach of the Warriors, feels compelled to talk to the ref. He's wearing a mask. He pulls the mask down and yells at the ref. What? Why even bother? But yeah, so you got people on the train, some half wearing a mask, others. And then the lady, I don't know if you saw this at the end, she wants to smoke a cigarette. So hidden behind a billboard, one rider moved her mask below her chin to speak on a phone while another nearby did the same to smoke. Well, you're not supposed to smoke either, for that matter, but...
Yeah, I think this article can be called "Stefano Rides the Train for the First Time Ever." Like, always goes on, dude.
How about the dude who just lights up while you're on the train? You know what I mean? That guy?
Yeah.
I'm smoking. What of it, huh? I don't believe it. Rules, schmorules. Okay. All right. I had a weird dream, Dee, if I can share this with you. Ooh, ooh, where I was like on an airplane and somebody lit up a cigarette. I don't know. What's that dream all about? Help me. Help me interpret this dream. Yeah. And the guy was like, yeah, I'll smoke my cigarette. What are you going to do about it? And really, what could I do about it? You know? It's like a weird dream. I don't know what it all means. And then I woke up and I saw this article by Stefano. Well, that's a great article. A great article. I want to give the Sun-Times credit. Stefano and Isabel did a great job. Just pointing out. By the way, there was also this headline I saw. I didn't tell you about this, Dee. This headline, it was in the Washington Post. I didn't even read the story. But the headline was, Iowa Speaker of the House, Republican, says he can't enforce ban on masks in the House, but enforced one on blue jeans. I'm like, what? What about the liberty rights of people who want to wear blue jeans? Don't we have liberty and freedom to wear blue jeans if we want to?
Yeah.
Huh? You can't wear jeans because that would violate our decorum, but we do not have the right to keep you from wearing a mask, which would protect our lives. Well, I see the logic in that one right now. Anyway, great article by Stefano Esposito and Isabel Saraf.
Oh man, that was awesome. I don't know, any other dreams that you've had recently that you'd like to share with us?
No, that's the one. I didn't know what to make of it. It's kind of a weird dream. I don't know. One day, Dee, will I ever go back in an airplane? They got me so terrified right now of the pandemic. They've done a good job. So that's why part of the reason why I'm so sympathetic to teachers. And the other part is, let's be honest. I'm just going to, more honesty, it'll get me nowhere. I don't know. Dee, part of me just likes it when somebody says, you got to do something. And then other people have the right to say, well, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Can we talk about this? I suppose in the real world, if you need order, the mayor reserves the right. She has to issue an order and a command, and it should be followed. That's an orderly society. But I don't know. Sometimes it just seems it's good to have people in power have to make accommodations for people who are not in power.
By the way, I've rode the train quite a few times now, the Brown line. Haven't rode the Red line or any other lines, just the Brown line, and I have not rode the bus since March. So
I really feel for bus drivers.
No kidding.
I felt for them from the get-go. I feel that they're at the top of the list. I do not understand why every single bus driver in America has not been vaccinated. That's just inexcusable, in my humble opinion. That's a freaking petri dish right there. And then the argument, I think it was Monroe. I'm really open to people coming up with arguments to try to open my mind and maybe see the validity of the city's position with the schools. Monroe countered yesterday an argument he heard from Michael Bloomberg, of all people. I'll bet you anything Dee has already been vaccinated. Michael Bloomberg's like, well, bus drivers are exposed, so let's expose teachers. The logic of that, I don't know. Let's just expose more people to this virus. Well, then bus drivers. Yeah, why weren't they vaccinated in December? Why are they vaccinating legislators ahead of bus drivers? Why are governors and mayors getting it ahead of bus drivers? Or grocery store workers? Or any essential employee? I don't understand it, Dee. So.
Well, all right, everybody, that's our local news. We want to remind everybody before we go to break here, if you've yet to check it out, you got to listen to Mr. Bike. But now, I don't think he likes it, but he's Mr. City Council, all right? He gave us a City Council synopsis, ran through the January City Council meeting that went down. Mr. Bike, Dave Glowatz, did a fantastic job, as always, provided tons of audio. If you want to know exactly what went down, all right, on the City Council meeting that went down in January, you got to check it out. It's available for download now at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. Ben, you always have a great time talking with Dave Glowatz.
I love Dave Glowatz. This dude, the patience he has to go through the city council hearings and meetings and take out the portions that are really relevant. He's got great sense of what's relevant. And does such a great job. And he comes on the show, very generous with his time, and directs Dennis to play the appropriate clip. And then we ref. It's one of my favorite segments that we do, one of my favorite episodes. So yes, D, that was really nice of you to give that shout out to Dave Glowatz. And folks, check it out.
All right. It looks like we have someone on the Google Meet. Let's see who it is. It's Heidi Henry.
All right.
I told Murri, I said, I'm going to go get some caffeine. And as soon as I do, we'll get the invite.
That's how it goes, right?
All right. So, D, should we take a little break, then bring Heidi and Murri on? What do you say?
Absolutely. Everybody, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break here. Remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, so much more. Over 900 episodes for you to download at chicagoreader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. Go check out that City Council synopsis. Fantastic podcast, if you ask me. You can also reach out to the Ben Joravsky Show at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. And once again, call us like Doogie did, 708-658-4788. The Ben Joravsky Show will return after this.
After 80-plus meetings and let me emphasize again, while remote learning works for some, it absolutely doesn't work.
All right, everybody, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Thursday, February 4th is brought to you by the Chicago Federation of Labor, SEIU Healthcare, Illinois, Indiana, and the Chicago Reader. Benny J, take it away.
Well, it was about 2 years ago. I've lost track of time. When I was working for a radio station whose name I can't remember before I was fired. I would do these Meet the Candidate shows throughout Chicago. It's I got to give that radio station credit. It was a great idea. I love doing it. Steve, the ad salesman, a shout out to you. Anyway, one of the candidates I met was Heidi Henry. Blew my mind. She blew my freaking mind. She was as lefty as I was, and she was running in Trump country. And Heidi, I can't remember how many times you're in the show. And then through Heidi, I met Murri Briel, who's also as lefty as I am, and she's running in Trump country. And she ran for the right to run against Adam Kinzinger. Murri ran in the Democratic primary. of 2018 to run against Adam Kinzinger. And so they are partners in the Heartland Mamas podcast, dear friends of mine in the show. So Heidi and Murri, welcome back. It's been too long since you've been here. And be happy that it's on this very snowy day. You don't have to schlep in from the hinterland to our beloved little studio in Chicago. But Heidi, I'm going to start with you, and then Murri, you weigh in. You guys know the rule. One person talks, and then the other person weighs in. You have your own podcast. Been thinking about you, Heidi, for over a month since Adam Kinzinger has emerged as a major figure on the political landscape, as one of the only Republican elected officials, and maybe the only Republican in Congress, actually Congress as opposed to Mitt Romney, the Senate, who is voting to impeach Donald Trump, denouncing the insurrectionists, denouncing Marjorie Taylor Greene, coming out strong for taking over the Republican Party, removing it from the hands of the lunatics who run it. When I first was espousing my appreciation to him for it, you chastised me in a text message that I was too easy on him. I've been meaning to bring you back to get your thoughts on Adam Kinzinger and the Republican Party. So Heidi Henry, the floor is yours.
You know, Ben, ever since he started this, where he's trying to be a moderate with a guy that has voted with Trump over 90% of the time, whose office I have stood in front of holding protest signs more times than I can remember, because he voted to take away health care. He voted to put kids in cages. He voted, was in favor of the Trump tax scam that's going to make my taxes go up when I file my taxes later next month. And so for all of us in the indivisible groups that have stood there and stood up to him in the 16th district, for him to finally say something that we agree with, I'll tell you what, it's really difficult. It's like a cold day in hell when I would ever agree with Adam Kinzinger, right? So when you went easy on him, I was like, are you kidding? He is like from the Farmer in the Dell, the cheese that stands alone. You know, he can't commit to anything, and nobody wants to touch him. You know? So, because us lefties out here, we don't like him. I would say we hate him. You know, we don't hate easily, but he was a Trump neophyte. I mean, he was a sycophant. He was horrible. And if the election had gone the other way, as I told you in that text, we would be bombing black and brown people to make Adam Kinzinger happy, because that's the kind of guy he is. So,
Murri?
You know, I have to say, I'm right on there with Heidi. In fact, you know, looking at those folks coming out now, it almost feels like a pit in your stomach, knowing that the people who are pretty horrible are the best thing that they got right now. Yeah. And you have to give them some credit for standing up for something. But I know that it's not standing up for something, I don't think, when it comes to Kinzinger. It's being an opportunist.
Yes.
So he saw the writing on the wall. You know, he has a lovely new wife who is in PR, who's been in the DC circuit forever. There's rumors about him wanting to run for governor. I don't believe it's really ever been governor. I think it's always been Senate. And you know that he tried to get Trump to give him the Secretary of the Air Force, was it, Heidi?
Aviation, I think. I don't remember now.
He tried to get a secretary position from Trump, and Trump ignored him. He tried multiple times, fawning all over him, and he ignored him. And that's the only reason this petulant little turd, excuse my language, is even coming out with that courageousness. So now he sees all the corporate sponsors dropping off, right? All the PACs dropping off. He knows there's a wheelhouse for it. He knows they'll be looking for someone to turn that to. So he pops up, hoping that he can regenerate, get some national attention, pull in donations nationwide, then run for Senate, and out Tammy Duckworth.
All right, now let me come. Let me respond, and then I don't care who goes first. I want to hear from both of you, the Heartland Mamas, Heidi Henry and Murri Briel. I hear you. And I remember I read not only read the text, Heidi, when you sent it to me, I read it on the air. In fact, let me call it up right now so I can read it. So it's fresh in everybody's mind.
Heidi, you're always getting us in trouble with your texts, man.
No, I was with her 100%. I get it because I struggle with this as well. I struggle with, like, if somebody does the right thing, and as Murri was saying, you kind of sense it's for opportunistic reasons. Does it really matter if they're doing the right thing for wrong reasons? Doesn't really matter as long as they're doing the right thing. Where is here we go. Ben, are you kidding on Kinzinger? He would have, this was December 16th. Good God. We've been talking about this for almost 3 months. No, 2 months. 2 months.
Yeah.
Ben, are you kidding on Kinzinger? He would have authorized the bombing of black and brown people in our own country. He is an orange-nosed sycophant. The fact that he is trying to be credible is incredible because he isn't. He's a total waste of skin and oxygen, a complete waste of time, and he has to be one of the worst members of Congress Illinois has ever had.
Mm-hmm. I gotta... Whew. Sorry,
okay. All right. So, Murri, you want to take exception to any point she made? I'll love to see the Heartland mamas go at it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're talking about reptilian space creatures hiding inside of humans, yeah, he's probably one of the worst members of Congress. Yeah. But if you're talking about actual abhorrent policy development and propagation, then no, I don't think he's even close. He'd take away a woman's right in a heartbeat. You know, he's definitely on the conservative right-wing path, but yeah. And my thought was, oh my gosh, what happens if he tries to become a Democrat? Oh no. We get rid of Lipinski. We don't want him.
No, we don't want him. It took us forever to get rid of Dan Lipinski and Kinzinger. And yet I have Democratic friends or people who I know vote blue, no matter who, all the time, that have written to me, emailed me, messaged me and said, hey, your congressman's really making sense. I'm like, are you kidding? He will go anywhere the wind blows. And his new wife is a PR genius. She loves the Washington social circle. And
she's an up-and-comer in the Republican Party, a Latina up-and-comer in the Republican Party, one to watch.
So, and she wants to be part of that. So her whole thing is, let's increase my social circle and push this sycophant forward, make him moderate or appear moderate, because once he gets in, if he's elected and takes Tammy Duckworth's place, oh my God, we're screwed, you know? So women are...
You asked a question. You asked Heidi and I, well, isn't it that even though he's doing the right thing, shouldn't we be happy they're doing the right thing for the wrong reason? But that's why we are always in the same spot we are. Yeah. Because their intent may be fine now, but the wrong reason will guide them moving forward. Right. So they will always be operating under the wrong reason, just done in a wolf in sheep's clothing type of way. Mm. I think I do have to give, okay, can I segue real quick? I'm so sorry. Mitt Romney introduced a bill that was really, really good. And I think it's the first bill I've actually seen the Republicans put forth that wasn't destroying something. And it is, and it's the answer for the stimulus or the relief package. And it would be a child credit distributed evenly without having to meet those thresholds for every child every month. And it would reduce a lot of other, it was a balance-free exchange. So there would be no, my brain is flaking, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It won't cost anything because the costs are being cut in other ways. And the ways that they're cutting costs make sense. Not like, hey, let's rip pacifiers out of babies' mouths and sell them to another country. Not like that type of. And I thought to myself, holy moly, Mitt Romney is now the voice of reason and logic, and not like a Kinzinger, but he actually is like building this center thing, and I didn't know whether to celebrate or cry. It's a little weird.
Well,
it's very weird.
So much stuff you guys have given me to think about and respond. Let me try to crystallize it. I hear what you're saying. I really do. For me, it's for you because you live in the 16th congressional and deal with Adam Kinzinger on a regular basis. It's more real to you. Yeah. For me, it's Liz Cheney. That's who I struggle with because I remember her daddy, Dick Cheney, and you talk about reptilian as the vice president of the United States who engineered a clueless George W. Bush into 2 wars, which we're still paying for in many ways across the board. Just the notion that somehow or other a Cheney is someone I should be applauding. So I feel you. I hear you.
I feel you too.
I know where you're coming from. And let me just say this. On the other hand, I took very serious that insurrection. And we can get into AOC in a little bit because she's on my mind. But it was a scary moment.
Yeah.
And I share AOC's fear, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is fear, the violence that's part of that rhetoric, the sense of martyrdom and victimhood that's part of their rhetoric. Murri, it's like comes from Mars. These whacked out weirdo theories that QAnon people believe in. If you refute them in any way, they immediately say, "Oh, you're just mainstream media is all made up and fake news, and it's the enemy." So I take very seriously the threat that represents. And when I see anyone within the Republican Party, even someone like Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, who I don't have as much of a revulsion for as Liz Cheney, I'm like, I welcome it. I just have this instinctive welcome that, because I think the other thing is such an existential crisis that I'm willing to put aside my disagreements, passionate though they are, with Liz Cheney's and Adam Kinzinger of the world at that moment. Heidi, your response?
Well, yeah, I look at it this way. Somebody's going to have to rebuild this mess. And somebody's going to have to bring them back to regulating women's bodies and funding corporate America and polluting everything. Somebody's got to bring them back to the core Republican values, right? So aren't Romney, Cheney, and Kinzinger the perfect people? They represent that. I mean, Cheney couldn't be any more anti-LGBTQ than to deny her own sister, her own rights. So that's fundamentally what they were all about until Trump came along. And then Trump came along, and that wasn't good enough. We had to go from a democracy to, I don't know what he was trying, a banana republic. I'm not sure what he was trying to do. And watching Trump manipulate people still, Kevin McCarthy, I'm looking at you, and still drawing people, drawing that split larger and larger. Yeah, I'd rather have the people whose plan we've known about forever, regulating women's bodies. We'll go back to that because in who uses what bathroom, because that is core Republican beliefs, rather than this bat crap crazy stuff that Trump has been brewing for the last year. Really, COVID fed into the conspiracy theories. And now we have flaming nutbags trying to take over the government to upend our democracy. It was horrifying to watch. And, my revulsion of dealing with Kinzinger stems from, I know where he's trying to go. He's trying to moderate himself so he can appeal to a larger vote. If he has to run against a larger portion of Illinois, he's going to have to pull from the suburbs, from the Republicans that live closer to where you live, Ben, than down by me. He's already got them. Well, actually, they're kind of mad at him because they had a rallies throughout the 16th on Saturday, and your local QAnon with their tattered, Gaston flags and swastikas and alt-right and QAnon BS were there waving their stars and bars, ready to be part of the insurrection, wishing they'd been in Washington that day, because if they had been in Washington, they'd be running the country right now. That's where they were coming from. So in Washington Park, in a snowstorm in the center of the 16th district is Ottawa, Illinois, sits 150 people that braved the weather to come out. Now, Murri and I know that a lot of these people kind of road trip from one event to another, because then they went up north by Rockford and did it again in a snowstorm just to say how much they hated them, but to make them look powerful. And the press gave them everything. I mean, our local press is owned by, a right-wing news outlet. So of course they're going to give them everything. Local radio stations are out there giving them everything, because they also fall into this right-handed news slant. We don't have the fairness doctrine anymore to say, hey, wait a minute, why are these people really out there? They're out there in a conspiracy. The Stop the Steal rally happened again in Ottawa, Illinois, Saturday. So, Kinzinger is the best they have to offer right now, I'm afraid to say.
Murri.
I guess I totally see what you were saying, Ben. I think you're right. It's maybe that any port in a storm type of mentality. And you're right. Cheney, I think I posted something about being shocked that she was someone I was like, oh, good job, right? I was surprised. I'm like, I know 2020 was bad, and 2021 is a little wacky, but how wacky is it that I feel compelled to retweet Liz Cheney? Something is wrong in the universe. I think overall you're right. I think that we can be appreciative of the fact that regardless of what their rock bottom was, they must have hit it, and they are taking a stand. And I do think you need to appreciate people for that. However, I don't want people to ever forget who they are or what their true intention is. So you're right, Ben. I will give them credit. And it's emotionally tearing to do that, right? To give them credit for anything. Like you said in the beginning, all victims, it breaks my heart. But you have to be able to give them that, and then just make sure people don't forget. Who did you vote for? What did you do? What's the behavior you exhibited? And believe me, it's atrocious from all of them.
And
that maybe Mitt Romney. He is just the purest, whitest dude ever, right? Like, if he were a bread, he would be crustless, white bread. I tell you the truth. Like, I don't know.
Sorry, Murri, you made me laugh on that one. Let's get back to sort of the Machiavellian attentions of Adam Kinzinger. All right. So I'm going to start off by saying, whatever his motive, this is me speaking, whatever his motive, I appreciate the stand he's taking, because I take very serious the threat to democracy that the Trumps, that MAGA represents. Okay. And I didn't have this, Heidi and Murri, I've been on the losing side of so many national elections down to the end. I mean, like Reagan and Daddy Bush and Baby Bush and Nixon. I mean, but I didn't have this existential fear that I have now, because I didn't get the sense that there was a mob ready to impose its will on people, even if in contradiction to what the election was. So I take this as a very existential crisis. So I appreciate the stand he's taking, but I don't understand quite where his strategy, how his strategy will work. And help me with this, Murri and Heidi, get your thoughts on this, because I agree with you that is probably his objective is to run against Tammy Duckworth. And she will be up if, when will she be up? In 2022,
I think.
Wow.
2022.
Damn, it's right around the corner.
Yeah.
So petitions will have to go out this September.
Right.
So I just don't see how that works. Number one, I can't see, like Heidi just pointed out, you have folks like the Republican Party in LaSalle County is censoring Kinzinger or proposing to censor him. You have.
They did.
They did censor him. Okay, which is so bizarre. They got people in talk about cancel culture. You know, they're always crying about cancel culture. Kinzinger says something they disagree with, they go to cancel him. And then you have, like you said, folks in Ottawa with the sit-ins. How could he possibly win the Republican primary? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I'll take this one to start if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, he can win the Republican primary by pulling those people who are in the middle, who voted both ways. He is what they would like. And believe it or not, there are large concentrations of Trump avid, rabid supporters in urban areas. And you're right, that's a threat for him because he is coming out against that. But what he's also doing is he's putting himself, like Heidi said, in a much more appealing situation for those Oberweis voters that almost voted out Lauren. Yeah. For those, we feel, I've noticed, you know, I've always felt pretty comfortable in Illinois being blue. You know, we've had, you know, some governors and whatnot, but overall, we have been predominantly Democratic. And this last election cycle, the House and the Senate, you know, you're usually watching those races pretty close, the state ones. And I wasn't seeing the effort put in by the GOP to help out, the Illinois GOP to help out those races. And I was really trying to figure out where they were because they weren't popping up in countywides and you weren't seeing, and they're at the congressional level. They're pushing for every seat. They've reshifted their focus, I think. And I think, Adam, when the dust settles, I mean, right now, a poll was released yesterday, and Trump's approval among Republicans has dropped 20% since Inauguration Day. So we're seeing that happen. The Liz Cheney vote, right? You saw yesterday they chose to keep her in power by doing a secret ballot, so nobody could, you know, but there is definitely the understanding that the supporters aren't going to stick with the crazy banananess. And I think Kinzinger's planning on using this, I'm a cute fly boy, look at everything I've done, I'm middle of the road, to get anybody who's angry about progressives, anybody who's to catch that wave that'll come from the backlash of having. I don't know, that's what his is.
You know, living out here, actually out here, Murri, it was a red tidal wave, and our county was decimated with red. Maybe up in your area it wasn't as bad because you live a little further north and east of me. However, down here, everything's awash in red. There was a big Trump wave downstate. So, and that brings me back to this whole thing with Kinzinger and what's going on with the censure and so on. You have to remember that when we had the audacity to elect a half-white man from Illinois to become president, meaning Barack Obama, when we had the audacity to do that, the Koch brothers, and now there's only one left, poured a great deal of money into creating the Tea Party and making it be the Joe the Plumber Party, right? So the Tea Party got a lot of energy put into it right in this part of Illinois and downstate. It brought us Bruce Rauner. We would not have had Bruce Rauner if it hadn't been for the Illinois Tea Party. And these are people that will vote no matter what they're saying right now, they're not going to vote for a Democrat. They are not. They are so stuck. You could put a Republican out there that says, I'm going to, sleep with prostitutes in the middle of the street, and there's nothing you can do about it. To a Democrat that's like, hey, we're going to bring back fair tax and properly fund our schools once and for all, and lower your property taxes. And they'll still vote for the guy that's going to sleep with prostitutes because he's got an R after his name. That is the problem that we're working on through Indivisible, trying to help address these rural concerns, trying to find that common ground. But because it's so entrenched in these people out here to vote red, vote red, vote red, vote red. And they will overlook this, I believe, when it comes to Kinzinger running for a higher office, because their alternative is a Democrat. And God knows they can't go there.
Exactly, Heidi. Yeah. Oh, definitely. They may, and there was 150 that stood up and protested Adam Kinzinger's actions, voting for impeachment, only 150. And that is not a large percentage. We remember that there's now like a 40% chunk of the Republican Party that falls into that Marjorie Taylor Greene pathway, that radical Q combined with white supremacy, menagerie that they have going on. But there are still 60% of that party that would much rather have an Adam than Nutter Darren Bailey downstate, or any Democrat. So he's definitely got the path.
You're raising some compelling points. Again, if Adam Kinzinger has a greater ambition, and I want to say it before I sign on to 2022 with Tammy Duckworth. So she won in 2016. Is that when she was victorious? Am I correct in that? 2016?
Yeah.
Because she defeated Mark Kirk, correct?
Right.
Yes. And he was 2000. So it was 2016. So you're absolutely correct. It's 2022. So do you think, I'll throw this one at you, that Adam Kinzinger is so ambitious and that his media handlers are so savvy that in order to get him elected statewide in the state of Illinois, they would actually move him to what we would call the left or the center on abortion rights?
Absolutely.
Oh, not
without a doubt.
Not on abortion rights.
No, he would say, no, what I meant was he would not actually follow through, but he would most definitely give lip service to all of those buzzwords without crossing that line. He would walk. I mean, we know he wouldn't go for it, but I guarantee you he will moderate all of that. We've seen him do it before. I swear he will. He will moderate it enough to keep with a wink wink for his pro-birthers.
Murri.
And maybe he might not be for those that aren't obsessed with it.
He pulled the Hyde Amendment out of nowhere to speak to his base, to his
he pulls crap out of nowhere all the
I know,
time.
but that's so he can start pulling back some of these people that had gone too far right to the extremist point of view. He pulled the Hyde Amendment out of nowhere to bring it forward. That was part of his argument against the ACA and the expansion of Medicaid, which just gives poor women a chance to just be, human like the rest of us. So he pulls this up out of nowhere. Pandering and banging the drum, the right to life. I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a pro-life person, and you're never going to change me. But then you have his uncle set forth a petition throughout his family asking everybody to condemn him, saying that he's now the part of the devil's army.
Oh my.
So you gotta wonder. I mean, the family dynamics at his house.
Thanksgiving at the Kinzingers.
Again, remember, anyone can reinvent themselves.
Yeah,
people have very short memories, which is why I want to make sure we don't forget that he isn't who he says he is.
Yeah.
We forget, and especially when you're in crisis or you need something new or you're looking for something, it's easy to be able to buy that lie. We want to be lied to as human beings. And I just want, that he can reinvent himself, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he wasn't able to do that. Now that he's married to her, he's got the savvy behind him.
All right. See, here's the challenge that a Republican has in Illinois. This is, and I've seen maps. The maps, Rich Miller had the maps of Durbin's last wins, his 2020 victory as opposed to Durbin's victory the first time he ran, which was in the 1990s, and how more and more he's become dependent on Chicago, Cook County, and DuPage County. And the rest of the state is becoming red, red, red. Heartland Mama country is red, red, red.
Yep.
And but the challenge for the Republicans is that red, red, red is not enough on its own to win the state. So you have to pull some votes from DuPage, and you have to pull some votes from suburban Cook and Chicago. Forget them. Maybe everything you get out of Chicago helps, but you can't do that by being vehemently anti-choice. Like, so the game Rauner played, and you guys remember this. You remember Bruce Rauner?
Yes.
And he got in trouble with Terry Cosgrove, personal pack, where he sent out that message: don't listen to the Dems. I'm pro-choice. I gave money to Planned Parenthood. My wife and I contributed money to, and Diana Rauner put those ads out there. And then of course when he made that move to defend his position as a pro-choicer, Jeannie Ives got so mad she ran against him. So that's the challenge that Adam Kinzinger faces when he runs. He's either going to have to go follow Murray's advice.
Yeah,
literally, you're not giving him the advice, but to quote unquote stitch together some kind of a rhetoric that would cover him in DuPage County. But it's going to be really hard, Heidi, given he's been so adamant all these years. Go ahead.
He doubles and triples down on that point all the time. And hey, he needed the crazies, the ones that were turning Q back in July, August, September, when Murri and I were really starting to see it bubble up out here. And when we had police officers in LaSalle, Illinois, that came forward as QAnon members, and yet there's on the police force. And we see this in our local sheriff's department and law enforcement throughout this area. So after seeing that, but those were the people he was courting, and he needed them to win against Danny Beebe. Danny had a leftist perspective, and unfortunately, the term democratic socialist is not going to go well out here. People don't understand what that means, and they hear the term socialist and they don't understand that is, the social welfare of the country, of the needs of everyone, not just the 1%ers. And unfortunately with Danny, that was an easy thing. He didn't even really run against her. He just pandered to his base and let the crazies put him in office again. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to be out of a job in 2 years. I better do something else. He's the cheese that stands alone.
By the way, you mentioned that. Let's get into this. We will have plenty of time to discuss Adam Kinzinger's political future. There's always the possibility that it could go third party. What do you think of that before I go to redistricting? Third party? What are your thoughts, Murri? Go.
That he would go third party?
Yes.
Or that the GOP would split into two factions, like third party. Adam Kinzinger would come to the decision that it's not in his best interest to remain part of the lunatic Republican. He's already kind of heading there with that rhetoric, and he just says, you know what? I'm going to cut the cord. They're crazy, and I'm running as the Adam Kinzinger party. And then the hopes that, like the Republicans and the Democrats would split the vote or whatever, and he could pick up enough. He still would have the problem on abortion in DuPage County. The Terry Cosgroves of the world are not going to let him off the hook. So I don't know. Do you think a third party is? It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibilities at all. In fact, when I saw his PAC pop up, that was one of the first things I thought was this is going to go a couple of ways. One of them is they're either going to split off, or enough of the fervor will die down and enough of truth will be out there without as much amplification that perhaps it'll settle back into some sense of normacy. I wouldn't put it past him at all. He has the hubris to believe that he could start a third party and make it successful. So yeah, that wouldn't surprise me, but I don't think he would definitely not be able to do it in Illinois and successfully run unless they had established a third party system and network and do it.
We don't have a strong, the Libertarians are probably the strongest. And if he decided to run as a Libertarian, he would just split the Republican vote because that's what they usually do. So any split in the Republican Party is not going to pull votes from Democrats. It's going to pull votes from Republicans because you're making it all about party instead of all about issue at that point.
All right, let's go to redistricting. As I was telling Heidi, I had Erica Weaver on the show last week, and she was the congressional candidate. She was the Murri Briel of the, let me do this, 15th congressional district. She ran against Mary Miller. Heck of a job, voters in the 15th congressional. You elected the lady who said, quote, Hitler was right. Good job, voters. But I'm sorry, Murri, for shaming the voters. I won't do that anymore. Anyway, she raised a very, she raised
You
a
can
very,
shame them all you want. They deserve it, man. What the hell are they thinking?
I don't know.
Like, seriously, look at Marjorie Taylor, like Mary Miller, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. The people voted for them. Why are you crazy? That's what we need to do. We need to fix the knuckleheads that are voting for these
Green had
whack-a-moles.
Yeah, Green had no opponent. So, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, so Erica pointed out that we're right around the corner from redistricting, congressional redistricting. It happens when we reapportion the maps. And I mean, the impact, which she pointed out to me, is how gerrymandered our congressional districts are now. So that really, when I talk about the 16th, I sent this to Heidi Murri. In my mind, the 16th congressional district is up north near Rockford, and that's my head. I always think of northern Illinois, border with Wisconsin is the 16th. But when you take a look at that baby, that sucker is so bizarre. It goes around Chicago to Indiana and bypassing the 15th, which is coming up from downstate. It's an attempt to preserve the incumbency of Democrats, because it was Democrats who drew the map, but essentially preserves some enclaves for Republicans. Like the 16th is very difficult, Murri Briel, and you know this better than anyone.
Oh, yeah.
For a Democrat to win in. So what do you think the impact of redistricting will be on these congressional districts? Go ahead. We'll start with Murri, then go to Heidi.
We're definitely going to lose a seat. I don't know what the final census numbers are, so it means 2. I know that many of the congressional reps, it's interesting, long about 2017, they start thinking, well, we better be really nice to our state legislators and get active and involved so we get a good district. The activity level and involvement amps up before redistricting for sure. If we're going to lose one, the 16th is a prime seat, or we are going to lose one, and the 16th is a prime seat to go. You could sweep the Sycamore, Morris area into Lauren Underwood's district. You could pick up the northern part for Sherry Bustos's district. And since she had a real heck of a tight race, which was completely unexpected, she'd appreciate that, at least the Democratic part, because, you're right, they do gerrymander it. And then we could just cut the bottom part of that district from like Livingston County on and put it down to the southern, whatever. Then we get, more Democratic out of it.
So you could gerrymander to preserve a Democratic. Heidi, your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I know out here all of us would love to be in Lauren Underwood's district, but we know that's probably not going to happen. We know we'll probably be, although we're far enough north, we have a better chance to end up in Bustos or Underwood's district than we do in, oh God, if we're in Mary Miller's district.
Mary Miller.
And I'm just hoping somebody runs against her, so, I mean, I'm
okay,
sure
Ben, I don't want to see it gerrymandered, but I do have to say that, I would rather have it gerrymandered and not have a Mary Miller. Yes. Or an Arthur or whatever that nut job was, who was an avowed Nazi that got 100,000 votes when he ran against Lipinski 2 years ago, than have one of them.
Well, this is, I mean, I will now make an argument in favor of fair maps, which I usually throw out the window, because it only works if it's nationwide. If you only cherry pick, I always tell this to my do-gooder friends of, in Illinois, you want to do fair maps in Illinois? Let's do it in Wisconsin and Michigan, where the Republicans gerrymandered in their favor. But if you had a fair map, in my humble opinion, any candidate who said Hitler was right could not get elected. I'd like to believe that. Maybe I'm being a little optimistic, but I just got to believe that most people would say, no, that's an intolerable comment. And if you don't really come out and explain it and apologize, that she hasn't, I mean, she basically blamed the press for calling attention to it, then you won't get elected. And so I think, like, that I'm with you 100%, Murri Briel. I would much prefer if we're going to have a gerrymandered district, I just go with the Democrat and not have to deal with the Mary Millers of the world. But I don't. We're obviously not in a fair map situation. The Democrats will be drawing this map,
Right.
and so all right, let's move on. And I wanted to hear what the Heartland Mamas are going to be dragged, kicking and screaming, to the Chicago CTU battle with Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I had a conversation with Heidi on this a little bit. And Heidi, before you give your thoughts on the dispute between the CTU and the mayor here in Chicago, whether we should reopen the schools, just tell folks, like you referred to where you live, just give folks a sense on the map where you are. And then, Murri, you give the same for yourself, because people need to know that the Heartland Mamas are not like living across the street from one another. You represent different territories. Go ahead. We'll start with you, Heidi.
Well, if you looked at a map of the state of Illinois and you see where I-39 and I-80 come together, I'm just a slight bit east of there. So I'm trying to think, probably about 45 minutes west of Murri along Interstate 80. I couldn't be more in the middle of the state. So, but in the northern half of the state, because I'm that I-80 thing is 2 miles from my house. So
what's the biggest town near you?
I'm right between, because I live in a little town called Marseilles, which used to have the only radar station 30 years ago, but that Doppler has taken that away. So I live halfway between Morris and halfway between Ottawa, Illinois. So I could walk to Grundy County, but I live in LaSalle County,
So schools are open there, correct? Public schools are open.
Schools are open, and I teach horseback riding lessons. That's what I do for a living. I'm a horse trainer and a riding instructor. I have a horse farm. And during COVID, once the state started to open up again in June, the one thing that you could do was horseback riding. So you could do it because we're mostly outside and we can socially distant one another. In fact, we have pool noodles to make sure that we're 6 feet apart. They have to touch pool noodles when we're in a group setting. So I have kids, like I always have homeschool kids, but now I have kids that are using this as their physical fitness credit. So they come out and sometimes they'll send a video or a picture to their teacher. And I get kids from all the way up by Chicago, down by Pontiac, which is far south for me. Because the horse farms are kind of a dying thing anymore. It's so expensive. So I get kids from all different school districts. The other day we had kids out here from 8 different school districts. Some were on remote, some were on hybrid, some were in school part of the time, some were in school full time. And I even have one student who is from St. Charles, but moved to Ottawa, or took an address in Ottawa so they could go to a really tiny school called Heartland that's out in the middle of the country, because they were open and they ended up with COVID. But every week, and I feel so sorry for these CTU teachers, every week I have found out that I've been exposed to COVID again. I double mask when I'm teaching. So, I have a microphone so people can hear me. I find out that one of my students, right after they left, all of a sudden started running a fever, that they've been exposed and are on quarantine, that somebody in their family has died from COVID or is sick with COVID. It happens. It's beating the tar out of my business because I depend on people coming every week for lessons. And there's times that we've had to self-quarantine because I literally was near somebody who, a little girl 4 hours later, that was around Thanksgiving, that came down with COVID-19. She was sick. She had to have been sick and not showing symptoms when she was here. So we had to shut everything down and quarantine ourselves and sterilize everything in the barn. And because there's no air purifiers, we have the doors open in my indoor riding arena. That's our air purifier, and the fact that the only thing that saves me, Ben, is they're up on a horse and I'm down on the ground. And I stay away from them, So when they're done, they flip me the reins. I have my gloves on. They leave. I spray everything down with the stuff called Pulverize, which is a sanitizer, and put everything away. And then before I go in my house, I take off my shoes and my gloves and my mask and throw the mask out. That's like my life right now. I can't imagine teachers going to school every day in an enclosed space, having to deal with what I have to deal with in a horse barn. That is absolutely ridiculous. And, you know, you said earlier today about kids that have missed school play. My daughter was an elite thrower for Seneca High School. She went downstate all 4 years of high school to throw shot put or discus or both. She went down in junior high. That was her life. She sang, she was in band, she had volleyball, soccer, all kinds of things. It would have been really hard for her to, I mean, this year it was hard on the kids here because there was no show season. Everything was canceled. And I look at these kids and I realize that they've lost a lot, but they could lose their lives. I mean, Murri and I talk about the variants all the time that cause them to have swelling 4 to 6 weeks later and amputations, or the loss of vision, or kidneys that shut down, or heart disease that lasts forever. My God, my kids, I only have 2 of them, and they're adults now, they're like Dennis's age, and they're too precious to me to put out there into that situation. I don't know. I sure wouldn't want to be a teacher right now in the Chicago public schools. I just can't even imagine.
Before we go to Briel, I have to.
Sorry.
No, that was a great riff. And when you were talking about your daughter, the thrower, I was a track coach forever. I love track and field, and I feel bad for the kids who miss their season. So this is what I've been saying all along. This pandemic won't last forever.
Right.
As horribly as they've been rolling out the vaccine, and that's the biggest crime of them all. Yeah. Eventually, I presume everyone will be vaccinated. So guys, can we bring back the season for the kids who lost it? What if we have the vaccine by the summer? We can have a track season in the summer.
Yeah.
They just want to look at it like they want to go back to the old way, Heidi. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking like, well, why do kids have to lose their opportunity to be in the school play? Why can't we open the schools during the summer to like give kids an opportunity to do a school? Okay, let's do West Side Story. We couldn't do it this year because of the pandemic. Now let's do it during the summer. Oh, that would cost money. Oh, well, we don't want to spend money on these freaking kids. We just want to use them in our fight against the Chicago Teachers Union. Exactly. You know? So but I'm with you. When you talked about your daughter, the thrower, like if you're a shot putter, and I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry, but that is it. That's your moment. You get to go down to Charleston, you get to go to Eastern Illinois, you get to throw that. That's your moment. You lose that, that's it. It's gone. And I'm with you 100%. I say, win this freaking thing over. You believe in those kids, have a track championship in the summer. All right, I'm sorry. Murri, go ahead. Your thoughts.
We've followed this really closely, and I have a lot of friends who are teachers and part of different groups, and it's an interesting Plainfield. Now I live in Will County, so I am on the upper portion of Will County in Joliet, right next to Plainfield. But my kids go to Plainfield schools, and I have 3 students: a senior, a sophomore, and a 6th grader. And if you want to talk about missing, the senior missed half of his junior year and has missed all his senior year.
Yeah.
You know, so I understand. And you would hope that was the intention last summer, was to have a prom and to have a graduation and to push the seasons back. But as we know, the COVID didn't get any better. So they had to postpone those things, and then the kids lost out on them. And while I understand the kids might lose out on them, I don't believe that's enough reason to put people at risk. If we want the kids back in school, 100%, then you make sure that the rooms are not going to be overcrowded, that the bus procedures are better than what they are, that you, and that's another thing when we're talking about a lot of districts are going hybrid, right? And that, I think, is even more of a crime than going back in person on teachers. Because not only do teachers have to teach the class they were teaching remote via Zoom, but they also have to teach and engage the kids that are in their classroom and keep an eye on the kids that aren't in their classroom, with 2 different methods of teaching. And those kids who are there, they've, at least in Plainfield, they've shortened the days even more. So it was a compressed schedule because of rules in the state of Illinois on how long kids can be in front of screen time. So the day is compressed. And then when they went back to hybrid, which we're just starting, so we'll get a chance to really see an actual case study evolving down here in Plainfield. Keep your eye on the numbers. We'll see what happens. My kids are not. Okay, my kids are total, even my senior, they're like, no, man, I'm good. I got college coming. I'm cool. I can wait, which is fine. But the burden that's on these teachers, and it's not even the teachers, it's that there are so many kids who, because of just being young or ADHD or whatever, would have problems with their masks, not to mention all of the rhetoric that these anti-masker parents have filtered in kids' heads. And you know that it isn't safe. And if you're going to put teachers in that situation, damn well better protect them. You know, close the bars, make sure that and the restaurants, make sure that the teachers are vaccinated. Let the vaccine kick in. And quite honestly, if they move to hybrid, like all of the districts are doing, you're putting greater burden on the teachers, a greater financial burden on them. You know you don't have what you need to properly protect the teachers and the kids. So what's 2 more months? Like you said, Ben, what's having graduation in July? What's having a city basketball tournament? Nothing. Wait, finish the year remote. Let everybody come out safely. And when we have a better handle on this crap, we can start again. Because the whole world is in the same position that we're in. And we place this expectation, this societal expectation that everything is supposed to move on this timeline. Well, guess what? The universe doesn't have a timeline. The world doesn't have a timeline. And we have to adjust to that if we want to do what's best for our children and our teachers.
I was well put. Go ahead.
I want to add one thing, since we've opened up the state for school sports again. Since we've done that, I've had 8 girls volleyball players out, either in quarantine or with COVID. And I've had one of my employees, boys basketball, out with COVID. And it's just like now we're mixing these kids. And this has just been a couple of weeks. We're putting these kids together. We're, panting. We're slapping spit. We're, hitting the ball back and forth. And these kids are getting sick. And these kids are, quarantining. I don't know how you can have a sports season when half your team has to stay home. And they're starting inter-school. Is it interscholastic? It's been a while since I've been on. But they're playing other teams at other schools. And I know the one kid said to me yesterday, it's really a shame because such and such school doesn't allow anybody any fans to come in and watch. And our school is letting 2 people per student player. And I thought, yeah, if it were me, you guys wouldn't be playing it also.
They're lucky that Heidi Henry's not running this state. Anyway, listen, the Heartland Mamas, we got to get going. Before we leave, tell everybody how they can listen to the Heartland Mamas podcast and all that good stuff. So I don't care whichever wants to talk.
Thank you so much for having us on. We absolutely adore being with you. You can find the Heartland Mamas everywhere you get your favorite podcasts. We are hilarious to watch on YouTube because my faces are funny and we're usually chasing chickens or something. So it's kind of amusing. But every Tuesday and Thursday, Central Standard Time, we do our show live at 3:00. And one day, Mr. Ben, you're going to have to come on our show.
Okay.
And we would love to have you on. So please check us, like us out. Right now, we're currently in the middle of doing a series on the rise of right-wing nationalism. And we're encompassing feminationalism with worldwide characters like Murri Le Pen. We're talking about co-opting women's movements for the conservative purpose. And we're going into the history of women in right-wing roles. And so we'll be doing that series. So tune in, find us everywhere your podcast, and it's Heartland Mamas.
MAMAS.com. And we're on at 3:00 today on the Facebook live stream.
Here we go. Thanks again, Ben, for having us. Thanks, welcome. Dr. D. We love you.
You're welcome.
All right. Take care, Murri and Heidi, the Heartland Mamas. And speaking of Dr. D, you got any updates for us before we head out that door?
Yeah, we have a few. Hang tight. I'm ending our meeting with Heidi and Murri. Not a doctor.
How to say that?
You know, name's Dennis. Still waiting for people to call me that one. That's it. I don't have any updates. Remember, you can find previous Ben Joravsky shows, Benny J bonus interviews, so much more. ChicagoReader.com and wherever else you download podcasts. You can find us online at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can call us like Doogie did today, talking about dibs. You can talk about dibs or whatever you want. 708-658-4788. And for those who listen on the download, we encourage you to check out the live stream sometime, Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time at the Chicago Reader YouTube channel. Boy, I like those Heartland Mamas.
Love the Heartland Mamas. They're awesome. And it's got to bring them back more frequently. Yeah, they tell it like it is. I want to thank.
And real quick, Michael Girardi just reached out. He has made songs for our program, The Ben Joravsky Show, and he asked if the Heartland Mamas need any music. I'll reach out to the Heartland Mamas, Michael, and I'll see if they need any some Girardi cuts.
Absolutely. That'll be awesome. Oh, my God. Michael Girardi writing songs for the Heartland Mamas. That'd be great. Heartland Mamas song. I want to thank the Heartland Mamas, Murri, Briel, and Heidi Henry. Two true New Deal Democrats in the middle of Trump country. God bless them. And, of course, want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride of Joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. And as the Heartland Mamas, Michael Girardi, Frank, and Stefan Esposito will tell you, back home in Alton, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.